Welcome back, or welcome to the Next Level Podcast. I am your host, John Harris, and as always, we are brought to you by Apex Performance, the only leadership and performance training for the security professional. I am super excited to bring to you today the one, the only, extremely talented and wonderful Katie Greatti. Katie, welcome to the show. I'm excited for this conversation. I'm excited for folks to learn more about you as an individual, what you do with SIA, what SIA is, because not everybody may be exposed to it,
Yeah.
and kind of just unpack a little bit around the services your organization is providing, kind of your space in that, and then discuss some of the trends we're seeing specifically with talent development and the entry of talent and the either lack of or ability to retain that great talent and the part that you and the organization play in that. So welcome, happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. So I'm,
Awesome.
as you said, Katie Greatti with Sia, and that's kind of the rise lady, if you will. I get that a lot.
Well, and that's how you and I first got to know each other. So I've
Yeah.
been involved with Rise in some form or fashion for half a decade, and really since kind of the early years of its inception. And for those who don't know what Rise is, it's a emerging leaders young professional organization within SIA. And SIA is one of those. So again, I'm not going to assume everyone knows what we're talking about. So there's kind of two what we'll call marquee organizations and associations in the security industry. You have ASIS and you have SIA. And ASIS tends to be more focused on individual individual membership to the person. And SIA is a trade organization more for organizations and companies that operate in the security industry, while also servicing the individuals who work within those companies and providing value to them as well. So now you got your nugget of information for the day around trade organizations and associations in the security industry. So Katie works at SIA, but you didn't always work there. And
Did
I
not.
love to ask about how people got in the industry, because we all have our interesting, fun ways that we ended up in the security industry. So share with us, Katie, what did you do before the security industry, and how did you end up here?
This might be an odd journey, but most are coming in with no industry experience. So I actually was a social worker and addiction counselor for quite a number of years before coming to Washington, D.C. area to pursue my master's in forensic and legal psychology. So you're going, great. Why'd you end up in security? I was working for a different association, which was my first real dip into association work, and that was the American Correctional Association. And I was running their certification programming while I was finishing my graduate degree because thinking they were so relevant to each other. And interestingly, a job came up through SIA, through a LinkedIn recruiter for SIA at the time, looking for a certification associate director of certification is what I started as. And so I knew nothing. I can tell you that right now. I was like, what are these acronyms, these tech terms? I have no clue what I'm walking into. But I will say I knew the interview. I loved the staff at the time, and I it was a no-brainer.
I love that. And I think it's interesting because one of the things I love about SIA, I remember the first time. So I grew up in Silver Spring, and the building that SIA's offices are in, my dad was an entrepreneur and ran uh, plant maintenance and kind of horticultural company. And we would do plant design for offices, where we would have like flower arrangements and just flowers and plants inside of office buildings. Well, that building was one of the buildings. And so I
Oh,
remember being a young kid sitting out in the old blue van when my dad would run up to go water plants in the building. So I remember the first time when I first worked for Linnell and I was visiting home, and I had talked to your predecessor, and I was like, hey, I want to get involved with young professionals. And I go into the building, and it's just Don, couple other guys. Just I mean, it was, and so I'm thinking like this huge organization, gonna be so many people, and there's like 6 people running the whole thing,
Yeah.
which which I don't think everybody realizes, but also like one of the things it allows is one, so there's two sides of that coin. One is that the small team does a lot. Like
Yeah.
Ellie, you, the rest of I mean, there's a lot going on there.
Hmm.
So I just want to recognize and acknowledge the team, you and the whole team for the immensity of what you perform with the limited resources that you use, and how accessible, at least to
Oh,
me. I mean, as just a guy who was like, hey, I want to come talk about how I can get more involved, and just being invited in to sit down and talk to Don and meet with everybody, and then the subsequent years thereafter, how like collaborative and open you and the rest of the team are to growing the industry. It's unique, it's unusual, and I think it's a differentiator in the space. And I think you guys do a phenomenal job at it.
I have to tell you, our senior director of membership, Kevin Murphy, he jokingly calls it the world headquarters of the Security Industry Association because people do have this idea
Yeah,
that SIA is like 100 people and we're all, cogs in this wheel. And then if you come visit us, there's 20 of us in an office space. And you do, when you work with us, you genuinely get to know us individually,
yeah,
and I really do think that's the appeal here. We like relationships. I don't want to like just call and process invoices and talk about sponsorships. There's so much more to this organization, and that really is a testament actually to Don Erickson. He's wildly approachable. Everybody's a little timid with the three-letter titles, right?
yeah.
Don't know what to do. Don't know what to do with your hands in front of those people. And he's just not like that. He's gonna, right? Ugh. He's gonna shake your hand. He's gonna be like, how long you been in the industry and what do you want to do and how can we help you get to wherever you want to go? And ultimately that's super appealing to me. I want to be at a company who is more about helping others than um, the ins and outs of a regular business because we are a C6 instead
Yeah,
of a C3. So
yeah,
we're close. But what we do, even though I knew nothing about this industry, and I was like, how is what I'm passionate about? How is my altruistic nature going to fit into a physical security association? And I will say what they've allowed me to do here is find my niche and given me creative liberty to take it and kind of go a little nuts.
yeah.
So
And let's talk about that. But you started, you know, you're in, you know, corrections, and rehabilitation and addiction. But the thorough put that I see, and you tell me if you agree with this, is helping people, right? If I look at the thorough line through everything that you do and you're about, it's helping people. And so, one of the, I think, greatest misnomers of maybe impediments to those to join the industry is, like I was telling before we record, I was telling you about how I just met a gentleman who is later in their career, like myself, who just started. He's been in the moved over to the physical security industry from kind of the software technology, cyberspace, and 5 weeks in, right, and he's like, I'm loving it. And but he was able to distill it down of like technology providing value, right, and kind of finding this. But some folks, the impediment is like, well, I don't know, like you said, the acronyms, and I've never been in military, I've never been in law enforcement, I've never done the, like, I've these preconceived notions of what are part of the industry for sure, and shouldn't be blockers to talent coming into the industry. As you've when you came in, like, how did you navigate that? Because it can be an intimidating, especially, like, I'm gonna call it like it is, a young female. I had Aaron Mann on the show a couple episodes ago. We had this conversation too. It's particularly intimidating for young females to come into industry that's an old white guy dominated industry, and
oh yeah.
go, listen to me, And especially in an association, he's going to be like, not just listen to me help you get a certification, do programming, do these kind of things. So walk us through, kind of that, the passion of I'm helping people, but how do I find confidence in a place that where not all people look like me.
right? Uh, so I will say starting out, it walking into like when any of the trade shows or a road show that you're going on, because part of what I've done for 6 years is very sales oriented. And walking into those rooms and being able to count all the women and the people of color on your hand in a room of hundreds of people, you're like, there's no home base. Like, somebody you feel like you could at least go and start a conversation with. So I would have loved to have had some of the resources that are out there now 6 years ago and been able to build off of that. But I will say it was a lot of digging and feeling confident enough to know your own value.
Mm,
And so if you're coming into that type of role in a in with lesser self-confidence maybe, or your nerves get the best of you, it can be a road. And I will say it took me to really feel like I had greased the wheels and was doing something very productive. I it took me more than 2 years to feel like I was actually able to take something and run with it and feel confident in what I was saying and my answers. So I've also made it part of my goal to be the welcome wagon, if you will. I want to know if you're new, if you're struggling, if you, it's just who I am to be like, hey, how's life? What can I help you with? Like, if you're struggling, period, I want to be there and say, what can I help you with in this physical security world? Uh, even acknowledging my ignorance and limited knowledge,
mm,
especially as we go more technical, let's not lie. I at least can connect you to the people who can have those in-depth conversations with you. I want you to know that you're not just sitting at a desk going, "What do I do now? Let me get you in the mix. Let me do what I can." Uh, yeah, I want to see diversity in age, race, uh, type of positions being filled, backgrounds. I want to see it all. And when I came in, I will say that while it's better than it was 20 years ago, there is a lot of room for growth there. So I think I choose to spend my time making choices that hopefully lead us in that direction.
and we often can get our having been in the industry for 20 years and going from that early professional who is very uncomfortable and not confident in myself because I felt like I didn't know
Mhm.
enough to a seasoned early professional who could garner respect and had the certifications and had the roles behind me to a veteran now, but who admittedly like emotionally still feels like I'm 28 and sometimes acts with the maturity of a young person. I woke up one day. I remember having this conversation with you as I stepped off the steering committee at Rise, being like, I'm 40s, like I'm turning 40. I think it's time to step aside and let others come in who can make an impact, still be a supporter, still be an advocate. Um, and so I think the importance of that from my perspective is stay connected, stay supportive, without like, you said it best. Like you came into and we'll talk a little bit about the programs and some of the things that you've rolled out and put together. You're never in a better position to help, or uh, we're always in a best position to help the person we used to be.
Yeah.
So when we think about like reverse the clock 6 years and you and I sitting in a room saying, God, like, we wish we're going to go build the thing we wish we had right now so that 5 years from now, the people who are us now can have the thing that we didn't have. And it shouldn't be about paying your dues as far as like
Right.
you should have it as bad as I did because that's how I got to where I
Uh,
was. It should be how can I make what took me 10 years you can do it in two. Because if I can get you, if I can draw down that development curve for you, you can be more beneficial for the industry faster, and then serve it back and serve it back. And especially in an era of digital transformation where things are being automated and machine learning is changing the game for the types
Yes.
of roles and capabilities that we have. We don't necessarily want people to take 10 years to get up to speed on things, and nor should they need to.
No.
So I couldn't agree with you more about, like, build the tools that you wish you had so that the people that are who you used to be can learn faster and create more value quicker. So let's talk about that. When mentors, the time program, the mentorship program, was something that you guys launched and you had a huge influence on. I think it does. There's a lot of mentorship programs out there, and I think I've been a part of it now, I think, for all the cycles of it, and there's nothing like it. It really, I think, hits the sweet spot of accountability, freedom, and then impact. And what I think is a mark of a good mentorship program is that the relationships live past the structured connectivity, which has been the case for all the ones that I participated in. Um, so give us behind the curtain a little bit. What was the genesis of it? And then and how have you seen continued success and folks returning back to it, right? Like, people keep coming back, and after their mentors, after their mentees, they become mentors, and there's kind of this virtual cycle of community that's being developed. So let us under the hood a little bit on that.
Well, I was working from home during COVID, and it was after normal work hours, and I called Don because, like I said, wildly approachable. And I just said, "What can we do? Can I start a mentorship program?" And he was like, "Well, that came out of nowhere. And if you have the right support, go." And I was, that kind of freedom's pretty rare. So what I did is ended up saying, who do I know that enjoys or gets value out of this type of work in this type of situation? So I called Bobby Louisant with Meta. I called Eddie Reynolds with Illuminar. You were one of the first calls to participate and go over the design of the program. And then I worked with some CS staff who may not have been able to work on a project like this, but showed interest.
Mm,
And so we all came together and said, what is the goal of this? Yes, mentorship, fantastic. Who are we targeting, and what do we want out of it? And it was really a program based on what I had mentioned earlier, diversifying the industry in every shape and form. So we want people who visibly look different than the next person. We want people who work in a variety of roles, whether that's, the EVP of business development, which I think is what typically happens. You see mentorship programs when you're like, it's a lot of C-level titles and people over a certain age. And I think we wanted to redefine what a mentor was.
mm,
So part of the goal is, again, diversifying what we normally think of as a mentor and who provides value, right? It's not certain people of a certain age with certain titles. It's people who work in the industry and have something to say and can help somebody along the way. Time the time program, which is talent inclusion mentorship education, I should say, that kind of defines the uh the mission. We just wanted to make sure that if you're at a place in life, whether your career is changing, whether you just started your career, whether you're a student, that you could get one-on-one life feedback from somebody within this industry. And I think you can attest to this. While you might talk about security topics a bit, you also talk about a lot else. So the program, it gives you a guideline, right? 9 out of 12 months, you have a suggested topic, but we don't expect you to go letter by letter. But if you like that kind of structure, it's there for you. If
right.
you don't, let it be organic. Talk, chit chat, figure out where your connection is and run with it. But
And
I,
that's what's been, I mean, because the one, even the way you present it with the acronym of time reframes the approach and what the aim is. And so in and of itself, there's this enhancement of talent, engagement, diversity, inclusion, that when you, I remember being on the first call with all the mentors, and you're looking at the Zoom screen and you're seeing all the boxes, and you're just like, this is an extreme, and it's the what I love about it is, at least in that first iteration, I think back now, I guess it's probably been 3 4 years, and like you said, it's Bobby, it's Eddie, it's Lee, it's
Hmm.
Colin, it's the
Hmm.
usual suspects, right? But now you've seen like new faces that come in and emerge, or people who get more interested, and that's what I loved about it, because it wasn't, and sometimes you just get like the rinse and repeat of the same old
Yep.
folks who do the same thing, which there's value to that.
Yes.
You also tend to you create a protocol or a profile of like, this is what it is, and meaning that diversity of thought is lost. So it's great
Yes.
to have power users who are always willing to step up and help. Um, it's also great to have new voices in the room, and then be able to add new voices, and see mentees turn into mentors. I love, like, my mentee right now is a CEO of a startup, older than me and a female. And it was you called me, like, I got a weird one for you. Like, this may be the best idea I ever had, or maybe the worst idea I ever had. We'll figure it out. But I remember the first call with them, and the ability is, this is someone who's again new to the industry, has a great idea, is an executive, um, and the mentorship is from the industry knowledge and product knowledge, and just like, and connections. Let me introduce you to this person, connect with this people, and do that. And then I'm learning from her what like what being an executive, like, what's it like being the CEO of a, so it's built into the system intentionally, I think, is that there's always two-way learning, right? You
Yes.
prompt the mentor to also learn and understand. And so I find that really intriguing, and really, and so as you do this, are you seeing um like, are you following kind of the career development of these mentees, and how how they go and where they go? Because I have some assumptions of like, they, I just, my hypothesis would be, and maybe it's going to take a few more years to prove it out, but you get a
Mhm.
mentee in, and usually what I see is they don't want to just do it once. They sign up again, and then they want someone slightly different, or then they become a mentor, and like, then they're probably like, I want to be a part of Rise, and then they're probably like, I want to do, right. So it's like this um you know engagement method that gets them hooked and gets them involved, but it also teaches them a lot about the industry in a short period of time. Like, how are you seeing your user engagement out of that group that is a part of it?
It's so wild because you see people on the mentor side who have never you might have been a CM member for 10, 20 years, your company, but you don't see those individuals volunteering for anything, and yet they are coming forward to become mentors. And again, I think it's finding that niche of people who are just so interested in giving back and creating something they didn't have
Mm,
when they were new to the industry. So our mentor retention rate is like 80%.
mm,
And even at that, we have grown. We had, I think, maybe 20 in the first cohort. We're at like 55. So
right.
we try to cap it because otherwise it goes wild. But
Yeah.
every year I'm amazed at the individuals who have seen us post about it and have heard about these great relationships and are like, let me in on this. Or the people who it's also funny, the people who the mentors who were like, I'm not sure I have anything to give. And I was like, are you kidding? You're a human. You've lived life.
Yeah.
You have something to give. And I think the on that end, there's surprise from them about what they walk away with as a mentor.
Yeah.
And then so the mentees, this program was set out to diversify. And I can tell you, I take the mentee pictures and put them all in like a PowerPoint slide, and it is wild. We thought we would, have to push to find uh, any type of minority, females, and to get them to join this program. They come in troves and it is natural.
Mm,
So what you see at a trade show isn't necessarily what's really happening in the new hires and the people new to
yeah.
this industry. It's beautiful.
Well, and so shifting gears a little bit into a different program, we'll talk about Rise a little bit, but maybe more impactful is Accelerize. And so since 2019, you have been instrumental in the first event of its kind. And I still think the only one that does it the way that you do it. So young professional emerging leaders focused event, security industry for SIA, run by SIA, SIA memberships, or anybody who wants to sign up for it. Um, and I played a part in the first one back in 2019. Somehow talked the team into doing it here in Minneapolis. And it was like Minneapolis, between Minneapolis and like two other places. And I
Hmm.
was like, if you do it here, like I'll help. I'll like I'll find the speakers. Like I'll do everything. Just have it here because then I know I can come. And I just remember, just winging it to like it was an idea that then was a dream, which then it has wrapped. Like I remember walking around at the mall talking to you. We had a pretty high ticket speaker drop out at the last minute, and we're like, what are we gonna do? And so we're like reshuffling things and figuring it out and just like putting it all together, trying to get, nonprofit trade association, we're funded by sponsorships and getting people involved, scrapping for every, little dollar and getting it
Yeah,
all
we
in.
were.
And then I just remember just the excitement of the day. And while all this is transpiring, I get laid off. And I get laid off from Linnell, and I joined Guidepost during that period of time. And then I'm able to tell that story on that stage around kind of how, like, resiliency and positive impact of leadership and that whole thing. It was a great experience with. And what was cool is I had former teammates from Linnell sitting in the crowd, hearing that and hearing about it. But what sticks with me is what you just said around the diversity of that room was unlike anything I've ever seen on an ISC floor, on a GSX floor, on any event we went to. You're like, look, we have young engineers and technicians and salespeople and customer, like all these different positions in the industry, very diverse, very, male, female, the speakers, the panels, the everything. It was like we've never seen anything like this. And through COVID, we did it remotely, and in Austin and in the years past. And where is it this year?
DC.
DC, going home. I can't wait. Can't wait. So tell us about just like that, because I see it as a huge success story. And we didn't know if it was going to work. And not only did it work, but man, like some of my best friends, Tim Wenzel, Brittany Gowie, yourself, Aaron, Kelsey, Matt, Mark, Mark Faka, Matt Feenet, like I met them in person for the first time at that event. And it was a
Crazy.
watershed moment for me, meeting people in the industry who thought and felt the same way I did as far as like moving forward in a positive way. So when I see like I can see kind of the emotion and the happiness on your face around, because it was like a child. Like I see for
Yes.
you, it's like a baby, right? And not just to like get it going, get it successful, keep it going during COVID and remote sessions, and having people who are so invested in it and connected to it. So, like, tell us that story a little bit about like it coming to fruition and happening, and how it's maintained and developed as this one of a kind, best in class event.
Oh, so interestingly, Rise was not a part of my job when I was hired on. And about a year after, the individual who was tasked with, creating and bolstering the effort for young professionals at SIA had moved on to another role, and they kind of plopped it in my lap a little. And I was just like, game on, right? I love a new challenge. Um, And knowing that there hasn't been a lot of groundwork already done, uh, allowed me to be like, let's play.
Mm.
And so first I got Matt Feenan was the chair at the time. And that it kind of came along with a ragtag group of like five of y'all
Yeah.
that that were like, let's change the industry. And I was like, whoa, okay. So, and so I was like, let me just hear what they want. And Accelerize, I took the uh, having Rise as a part of my job responsibilities in like February of 2018.
Yep.
And they were like, guess what? We're having a conference in like 5 months. Go. I was like, cool. I had never planned a conference before. It was my first foray into that. Um, but honest to God, the reason it came about was because the five or six of you had been thinking about something like this for a long time. It's not like I woke up and was like, it would be great, a young professionals conference. I didn't do that. That's not what happened. Um, I took and fed off of your passion for the industry and for each other. And that is why it is unique and stands alone and gets the support that it does. It's because it is an untapped group of individuals who want something to be proud of, want to put their stamp on, want to give to the industry as a whole. I am very proud of the event. If you look on the Join SIA page, by the way, uh, the first thing that pops up is that photo that we took outside of the conference hall.
Yeah.
And I look back on that, and I was like, man, there's like maybe 60 people in the photo,
Yeah.
and it makes me laugh now, um, because those are the supporters from
Yeah.
day one.
And what's amazing, Katie, is that, well, one, a few things. I don't know there's a better way that I could surmise that group of us than the ragtag bunch of misfits with just big eye. We had no idea what we were gonna like. You came in and built you were kind of like, all right, like I'm gonna wrangle these cats and get this ship righted because we had a lot of ideas, not a lot of
Yes.
structure, and not a lot of follow through at the time. So it was like, who knows? It was so that it was like this perfect marriage of like you said, passion and knowledge and enough connection, right? So I want to give credit to also the companies, Axis and Guidepost
Northland.
at the time and Northland, and there was these brands who were all in, right? um you know um uh Brandon was another one who was a part of that group and in the beginning, right?
Mhm.
Who really who got these big brands who were like, heck yeah, we'll support young professionals. And because all like if Matt and Kelsey didn't work for a company like Axis, who was like, yep, we're good, and Northland was like, yeah, we'll be involved, like it doesn't happen. And so that was huge to just get a couple big names in the industry to lean in and support, and send people, right? And then
Yeah.
send the actual people to the event
Right.
and have that be a part of it. Um, so that was fantastic around kind of just the structure because I don't know, like very transparently and honestly, if you don't come into the picture, that doesn't get done the way I don't think we have the impact that we do. It doesn't get done to the level that it did. And who knows if 6 years later we're planning a DC event and this is happening now. It might just be this flash in the pan. Like other things that happen in the industry. We have this great idea, we put an event together, it's cool, it is a fun thing for a period of time, then
Mhm.
it goes away. But what I find awesome is that same team, all of them are still in the industry, and all of them have moved up and developed and matured in their career. Some with those companies that they were
Yeah.
with 6 years ago. Most have moved on into multiple other companies and continue to have impact. And they're all still to some extent involved in SIA. And so I think
Oh yeah.
that's what's so fun for me to see is that original group. And even I'll have to go back and look at that photo from the lobby because I know a lot of those people are still
Hmm.
like I still talk to them, I still know them, they're
Yeah.
still in the industry. So just a lot of fun. And so um and again, the content, right? So what I've always loved about this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on how because you're instrumental in putting the content together. So it's not just the hotel, the location, the fundraising, that all matters, but there's a very intentional focus that comes with speakers and content and topics. And
Right.
so I remember putting that together. We had, you know, um, you know, financial literacy for the young professional, where we had one of my old colleagues
Yeah.
who was a CFO come in and talk about a balance sheet. Like, and she didn't want to do it. I'm like, I just come in. Just like, I know it's probably going to be dry and but I just want people to sit here and listen to the things so that they can then go get interested and research it later. We talked about philanthropic activities and how to support
Mhm.
organizations through volunteerism. We talked about teamwork, talked about leadership. In other ones, we've talked about like demystifying the channel and other, all the things that are intimidating. We talked like when we first started, all those acronyms and nuances about the industry that
Yeah.
intimidate us when we start, trying to break down those barriers and make it accessible for folks. When and telling stories about, we had a panel in that first session or that first year around women in the industry, with Brittany and Angela Osborne,
Yeah.
and some others. So when you put together the content, how are you thinking about putting that together, and what inspires you to put together an event that is going to be impactful and move people forward and be memorable?
I will say sometimes it's very tough to find a mix between the soft skills, that leadership, that how can you be your best self type of workshop versus a session on supply chain or emerging tech. It's about understanding that the more you diversify the room, the more interest you're going to have from your audience.
Mm,
And the reason we've never like broken out and done tracks is because you learn about something new and something that isn't in your area, probably at three-quarters of the sessions. And that is very intentional. If you want to grow within this industry, you need exposure to all sorts of different security. There's things that touch on HR. There's things that are going to, again, we still do financial literacy on some level at every single one of them because it is such a necessary topic for
mm,
young professionals, even not even young professionals. Sometimes it goes well beyond. And we try to hit it in multiple directions because it's something so real for our audience. Uh, we definitely hit on the hot topics and the trends, and something unique to Accelerize is that we've now integrated a debate,
mm.
which is something you don't really get at any other conference because it can be touchy. There are topics like facial recognition, like uh, where you got to debate on channel versus direct sales. These are things people think about and they discuss amongst their circles, but rarely are you going on stage and actually just like point by point taking it in and getting that audience interaction. And what is beautiful about this audience is they want to know that speaker. They want to interact with you. They want to ask you all the questions, all the questions. Everybody, all the speakers during speaker prep, I'm worried they won't interact. And I was like, oh, no, no.
Not
Oh,
this
no,
crowd.
no,
Yeah.
no.
You should be
Their
worried about the
speaker.
level of questions you're going to get and if you can answer
Yes,
them all. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
right. And I think Accelerize by nature of its audience and by nature of the Rise steering committee who gets to really assist in creation of the content, we push the envelope.
Mm,
We like I don't want to do things that are already done and hear from speakers who always get the spotlight. They do have we do bring them in occasionally. Don't get me wrong. I think there's incredible value, but I want to see a new face talk about it. If it's your first time ever presenting on a stage, let's go.
yeah.
I
And
want that opportunity.
I think not just in what I find so, we get what I don't think many people understand if you're not inside of the working groups and the steering committees is we get a lot of agency. We get a lot of trust and a lot of empowerment to go. There's not a lot of like asking Don for permission or asking someone, right? It's like there's guardrails given, there's expectations, but we've gained trust over, and it's expected. We're all professionals. We trust, you get the blessing and the curse of, again, still 6 years later, kind of like wrangling the kids and keeping us in line. But we do, at least, I think what makes Accelerize so exceptional is we do push the boundaries of topics. We talk about things that our constituency of professional care about, and that maybe other folks are less willing to take on those topics and talk about them, or that people are too self-conscious to ask, like, I don't know this. Like, again,
Yep.
when we did the debate on channel versus non-channel, there's probably a lot of people in the
Sorry.
crowd who are like, I already bless you.
I was
I
gonna
always
sneeze.
hear about this whole channel thing, but I don't really know what it means, right? And
Right?
so if you just have a conversation and define some terms and then discuss it, it then people feel comfortable. Now they can go have a conversation, or they can get interested and seeing, like, I love the opportunity, like to your point, of giving people the stage who haven't gotten the stage before, or haven't gotten it often. Like, one of my favorites is a couple years ago in Austin. Leo Dess was supposed to speak and then got sick. And so
Yes.
we recorded some stuff, and then Bert got to speak. I've had Bert on the podcast. He's a lovely human being, one of my
Oh my
favorite
God.
people ever in the world. He had
Yes.
like he's always behind the camera. He's always doing, like, he's a behind the scenes kind of dude. And it was so fun to see him on stage, so people get to
Oh,
hear him, and I think it created a confidence boost in him and a capability that has driven him forward through the career that he's doing today and what he's able to accomplish as an entrepreneur, because he got to be on stage and be a part of that. So I see it as a platform for others, and anyone can submit. So you go in, the topics will be
oh
posted
yeah.
probably in the next couple of months. You can go in, you can look on the website, see what the topics are, submit something, even if you don't see a topic that you want, submit it anyway, right? I think that's
Yes.
what I'd encourage folks. Like, if you have a good idea, submit it. And the worst thing that happens is no, or some feedback on, hey, what about this? We can slightly adjust it this way, or would you consider it? So yeah, I mean, that I couldn't agree with you more. um Last topic I want to unpack with you a little bit, so we've gone through this discussion around, you got the mentorship program, you have, your certifications and memberships and some of that other activity that you do. We didn't really touch on that, but there's some of the like SICC and some of the other
Mm.
project management certifications that folks can get through SIA. We also didn't talk around, there's some more, like, technical mentorship through I forgot the term again already, what I was discussing before.
The apprenticeship
The
program.
apprenticeship program, there it is. So yeah, we have mentorship, we have apprenticeship, so there's and then we have Accelerize, all these programs really geared on targeting new and good, skilled talent into the industry, retaining them into the industry. Because I know, a metric that I've seen is, like, within the first 2 years is when typically people will leave an industry. And I've noticed that just kind of anecdotally in our industry, you have folks who
Yeah.
come in, if they stay in through 2 years, there's a high probability you get them through five. They stay in for 5 years, it's pretty much sure that you're going to keep them they'll stay within the industry. They might not stay in the type of career that they're doing or with the company, but they will be in the security industry. And we have a graduating talent opportunity, I'll call it. A lot of people retiring, a cohort of that 50 to 60 and older group in all types of roles that are leaving the industry.
Yeah.
And we're not getting new talent in at the same pace to replace it. It's not a security industry. It's not unique to our industry. We see it in a lot of places, but
Yes.
it's visible to us. And so you're at the forefront of this, kind of pulling all these things together. What are your feelings on that opportunity and that challenge that we're facing? And as you're interacting with these emerging leaders and young professionals in kind of that 5 and less year tenure, um, are we doing a good job of keeping them in? And if we're not, what could we be doing better?
So I would say that I think we're doing a better job right now of retaining, but that is because of programs where they get to talk about other people's career journeys, right?
Mm,
So it's crucial to understand that somebody didn't wake up and become the director of whatever and whatever,
hmm
that they bounced around within this industry within companies within this industry and gained experience. And I will say, the younger generation, we are a instant gratification type of type of people, right? And so we're like, how is this going to be a career for me? Well, let's show you,
Mm,
because you're just now figuring out a lot of times what you want to do. And I don't mean like what job title to have, like what you actually want to do. And I think having the transparency from companies to be like, we hired you for this, but you're showing a lot of passion over here.
mm,
That would make a world of difference. They showing the flexibility within your company to actually care enough about your employee to see what they could really do would make a world of difference. Um, I will say I would love to see some more recruiting efforts going towards those outside of a 4-year degree
mm,
because yes, I have a master's. I love education. I would keep going to school for life. But a lot of the people who have made this industry what it is came from a non-traditional education background.
yep.
They worked up. So why aren't we targeting those same populations now and giving them a chance to walk into this industry, become a part of something and make it feel like it's a career home?
Mm,
So I think there's a differentiation about what we're calling a standard to come into this industry. When it was building and becoming the multi-billion dollar company or industry that it was from a bunch of people who started maybe as technicians or as entry-level salespeople who had no idea what they were selling, right? And moved their way up. So let's go back to that. Why is the standard or the barrier to entry so much different now?
yeah.
So
That's it.
take a
That's
step
such a
back.
great point. And we're at a really great moment to have that conversation as we're seeing this technology convergence. And because I again, I wasn't one of the guys who started in the career pulling wire
Right.
through tiny walls. I started my career as a security officer, locking doors for 4 hours,
Yeah.
then taking a break, then locking doors for 4 hours again, and working my way up to the end user side before coming up over here. But similarly, like that. And so there's a conversation happening on both sides of both the service provider, technology provider, and the end user side where I originally came from. I also think there's more opportunity to cross over, right? We typically see folks in the end user role waiting till they become an executive and then going, all right, now I'll go become a sales or BD
Yeah.
and the thought process of like just because I was an executive as an end user, I should just get an executive role over here. Well, I didn't. I went and took an entry level business development job because I just thought like one, it was the only thing I could get. So, but I remember my boss when I worked as an end user asking me after I'd accepted the role, and it was an internal transfer, so it was within the same monster, conglomerate at the time. And he's going, what do you think is going to be your biggest challenge? And I said, my ego. I'm used to running multi-hundred person company, a global organization. I don't have to ask permission to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna anything over $15 in spend, I gotta ask permission for. Like I'm not allowed like the whole game changed and I felt like I hit reverse back to where I was. But you can't be afraid of those kind of challenges and opportunities when the upside is going to be so big. So saying that, though, the entry level technology jobs, I think like the pulling wire and stuff like that, they don't exist as much as they used to, and maybe in the future they won't at all. And so where do we go look for? So then maybe instead of so it's a computer programmer and
Yeah.
it's someone who knows how to write JSON or program
Yeah.
Python
Yep.
and there's 9-year olds doing that today. And
Yeah.
so like the opportunity to go find talent in non-traditional places that still can service the needs that we have and will have in the future
Yeah.
without saying but you have to have a degree, you have to have that. Again, I have a master's. I value education. Um, when it's necessary, which in most cases, I see it as just like a personal development opportunity
Yeah.
that I value it to continue my education and my own growth.
Yeah.
If it was mandatory to get in, I'd have a problem with that And I do have a problem with that. And I had a problem with it when I worked for a huge Fortune 500 company that made it mandatory. And I couldn't promote somebody because this person was 61 years old. She had been in the compliance industry for 40 years, and they wouldn't let me promote her into a management position because she didn't have a degree. And I had to
Ugh,
fight tooth and nail all the way up to the highest levels of human resources and legal to get a waiver for the person who had been in the industry longer than I had been on the earth, to allow her to manage people because she didn't have a 4-year degree. It was laughable. So, there needs to be common sense used when we're
yes,
doing this, because the future of our industry depends on it. I think in a certain sense, though, if we want to keep growing and having the impact we want to have, ultimately to keep people safe and make the world a better place, less bureaucracy and less um, barriers to entry is the path forward. Um,
agreed.
so, in closing, if you had one key message to our security brothers and sisters who are
Yeah.
young professionals who are trying to find their way in the industry and trying to move forward, like what is your, with all your experience now over the last 6+ years, what is your advice and guidance to them, um, in order to help them keep going, be better, and have impact?
The first thing I'd say is there is a place for you, period. There's no and, there's no but. You have a place in this industry. You are worthwhile enough to make a difference and make an impact, make a career. Even though you might be questioning it, you have a place here. And that's end all be all. What I do suggest is that you build your network enough to know that that place might not be where you're currently at, and that's okay. But build a little family around yourselves. And I will say the industry does allow for that. There are people here that will embrace you and lift you and help with transition. So build that up. Take a focus and everybody's build your network. Uh, I mean it, but find it. It's building the right network,
Mm.
and it's going to take a little bit for you to say these are my people. But once you found your people, golden. So be open to these networking opportunities. Take the chance, even though you're timid about going into a room full of strangers. Take the opportunity to go in there, meet somebody, and possibly make a connection that has nothing to do with physical and converge security. I don't care if you like dogs and the other person does. That's fine. Start there. You never know where it's going to go. I wouldn't have met you had we not really just taken a leap and been like, let's do this crazy thing. And over the years, it has been nothing but respect and love and adoration, really, for who you are and what you do. So let's don't be afraid. Jump in the water.
That's great. That's great. And I promise you, if you're listening to this or you're watching this and you've felt moved by what we said, then your people are in Rise. So sign up for there. If you don't know if your organization, chances are if you work for a security technology company or in the security industry on the service provider side, there's a high probability that your organization is a part of SIA. I think what tends to be is that if you're in like a leadership role or up there, you're connected, and then you're a part of it. And so sometimes the bigger the organization, the harder it is for that message to trickle down and for folks to understand that by default they're a member too and they can get access. So I implore you, if you don't know if you are, find out. You can go to the website, you can look up your membership group. If you're a student, you guys have student memberships. There's always ways to get connected. And if your organization is not a part of it, then encourage them to be a part of it because there's immense value. There's tiered membership. So if you're a smaller company or a startup like we are at Hivewatch with 50 people, we're still a member and it's affordable, right? So I don't care if this sounds like a commercial and a promotion for SIA. It is unabashedly because I believe so much in it. It's had such a positive impact on me and the connections that I've been able to make and hopefully the impact that I've had on others and the alignment of the mission for me personally to have massive positive impact. And I think that aligns well with what SIA does. So Katie, thank you so much for carving out some time in your schedule to have this conversation with me. I'm excited for what's to come. A homecoming for me to have Accelerize in DC this summer. So that'll be fantastic. So folks, check that out. Be a part of it. As we mentioned, it's a one of a kind event in the industry and something that is not to be missed. So tune in for that. And yeah, any last words or closing comments before we wrap this up?
Well, I know you do quite a few leadership discussions, so I want to propose a topic.
All right.
All right, scary, right? Why do people with large goals fear the plateau?
Mm,
We're always looking for something new. What's the next level? What's the next goal? And you talk about it a lot, always challenging yourself. Why do we fear the plateau?
interesting. All right. I will think about that and I'll respond to it. Maybe I'll do so what I will do is an individual episode on that specific topic as a response to Katie. And I'd love to maybe, those kind of topics are great conversations to be having at a place like Accelerize where we can expound upon that and put it on a stage. So
Yeah,
yeah,
let's
maybe
do a
some
panel.
foreshadowing for that. Do a panel of some folks on that. Lot to think about, lot to unpack there. I look forward to thinking through that. So thank you, Katie. Thank you so much. Appreciate your engagement and let's go do great things.